Welcome to Study Time, a televised home learning program produced by Rwanda Education Board.
So now you're welcome to biology lesson. As usual, you are with the teacher Claude. You're welcome to biology lesson, senior 6. So we are going to talk about the unit number 9, which is Nervours coordination. And then the lesson is lesson number 4, which is reflex action and reflex arc. So you will be able to know about this. And then what is the objective of the lesson? So you will be able to describe the components of reflex arc. So what is the reflex action? This is a quick automatic response to the stimulus. A quick automatic response to the stimulus. So remember, there are dangerous stimulus that require our body to react quickly, to get a quick response. That process is what you call reflex action. And then the pathway that can be taken by nerve impulse during the reflex action, that one is what you call reflex arc. Are you getting this? So for example, let me give you an example. If you touch on the hot object, so you need a quick response. You need a quick response so that you can remove what? Remove your finger on the hot object. So that one is going now to be responded by what you call spinal cord. The spinal cord is the one that's going now to do what? To give you the response, then you remove it quickly. For example, you are moving, and then when you move, you can meet, for example, with a nail. You know a nail? When you are moving, then you can now meet, and then with your foot, what's going to happen? So you remove quickly your foot from the nail. So that one, it is a quick response. It is ensured by the nerve system, by a part called the spinal cord. Are you getting this? And then, so we are going now to see what is the reflex action, as I have said. It is a quick and involuntary response of what? Of the central nervous to a stimulus. So the central nervous system is now to respond quickly because you need what? You need to be protected. That is what you call reflex action. So what are the characteristics of this reflex action? So it has rapid response to the stimulus. There is very rapid response because someone is in danger, need to be now to be protected. So you touch on the electricity. You know what's going to happen? You move quickly, which means that information has been transmitted to the nervous system, central nervous system, and then give you a quick response to remove your what? Your hand. And then it is not under control of the brain. Hence, it is described as involuntary action. It is not under control of the brain. So immediately, you are going now to get the response. The spinal cord, where all the nerve fibers from all the parts of the body are attached to what? Are attached on this spinal cord. So you will be able now to do what? To get a quick response. Then you remove your what? Your finger if you attach on the hot object, and so on. So what is the role of reflex action? They involve in homeostasis in general. They help to control breathing rate and also prevent the damage to our body. If the reflex action is not there, we can get damaged. You can be damaged. Our body can be damaged because of those stimulus that are very dangerous. If you don't get a quick response, so immediately you can die, even you can die. Let's give you an example of this electricity we are talking about. Suppose you touch on the electricity power, and then you don't get when the impulse is not transmitted to the brain, or it can be transmitted to the brain, then you do what? You delay to get the response. You know what's going to happen to you. You are going to get damaged. You are going to be damaged. The body is going now to be damaged. But because now this ability is there, so you are going now to get a quick response. Then you remove it quickly so that you protect yourself. So this is why this is very important. It's very important. Suppose also there is something that is going now to attach in your eyes. What's going to happen? You contract your eyes immediately, so to prevent that something to get into your eyes. That one is also involuntary response, quick response. What's another reflex we can give? We can even try to give some examples of this reflex action that require a quick response. Can you try another one? 1 second. Oh, nice, good. It's a good example. So, salivation. You know salivation? When there is presence of food. When there is presence of the food in the mouth, or when you at the sight of the food, you see what's going to happen. There is production of saliva in the mouth. So, as preparation for what? For digestion. That one, production of the saliva in our mouth, is also one example of what? Of the reflex action. So, yes, 1 second. Oh, blinking the eye is when there is something that's going now to get into your eye. Also, that is a reflex action. Nice. Is it clear? You understand what is the reflex action? Good. Now we have the sequence change that occur during spinal reflex. Spinal reflex is that quick response that is going to be ensured by what? By spinal cord. Spinal cord gives the response. Remember, spinal cord is where all the nerves are connected or from our body. So now, spinal cord can now give what? Provide the instruction of what to do. So now, what are the changes that are going to happen? This sensory receptor receives a stimulus, first of all. Sensory receptor, they have to receive the stimulus. Stimulus, remember, it is any change that's happening. And then the impulse is generated in it. Let's take an example of this hot object. Suppose this is a hot object. When you attach on this hot object, what's going to happen? The receptor cells that are found on this hand, on the finger, detect that change and then transform this change into impulse. That's the step number 1. Step number 2, the impulse is going now to be transmitted along the sensory neuron. Remember, sensory neuron is the neuron that carry information from receptor cells to the central nervous system. So the second, this information, this message is going now to be transferred by what? By this sensory nerve toward what? The spinal cord. Are you getting this? So now, number 3. Once the impulse reaches on the parts of the spinal cord called gray matter, it passes on the ray neuron. Remember, ray neuron is a neuron that connects sensory neuron and motor neuron. Are you getting this? When the message reaches there, what's going to happen? The ray neuron then transfer impulse to a motor neuron. Remember, motor neuron is a neuron that can carry information from the central nervous system to the effectors. Now, motor neuron convert the impulse to the effector, such as muscle, and a response now can take place. Are you getting this? Are you getting the change that happen when there is this reflex action? So, First of all, we have this stimulus. Because any response, any instruction is happened because there was stimulus that caused the generation of what? Of the response. So this one is going now to receive by what we call receptors. And when this stimulus is received by receptors, for example, thermoreceptor, photoreceptor, remember those types of receptors we have talked about this. So when this stimulus is detected by these receptor cells in our body, so now this stimulus is going to be changed into the impulse. Are you getting this? Impulse, message. And then this impulse is going to be now to be transmitted by what you call sensory neuron. Sensory neuron do what? Sensory neuron take this impulse and then carry it to the what? To the central nervous system. They take spinal cord. So the impulse now is passing. And then from the spinal cord, are you getting this? The message can continue and go in what we call the relay neuron, interneuron. And then from this, it's going now to be transmitted to the motor neuron. So here I still have the impulse. So remember this, it has now interpreted, then it brings the response. The response now is going to be carried by this motor neuron to effectors. Effector, it's like muscle and glands. Now the response now is now coming. Now you are able, if you touch the hot object, you are able now to remove your what? Your finger. Are you getting this? These changes? Nice. Good. So, what you see on the screen is what I tried to summarize here on the what? On the chalkboard. So, you see, now stimulus, either external or internal stimulus come. And then it's going now to be received by what? By receptor. Receptor is like a cell or organ. Let's take an example of this sensory organ. So receive what? This stimulus. And then this stimulus is going to be changed into the impulse. So now that impulse go to the coordinator. So you can ask yourself, what's coordinator? Coordinator can be either brain or spinal cord. So this information is going to pass to the coordinator via sensory neuron. Then go to the coordinator, which is brain or spinal cord. And then what's coordinator do? What is the role of this brain and spinal cord? Is just to interpret the information and then prepare the appropriate response to the stimulus. If it was like the hot object, as I am talking about. So the brain now will give the information. No, what you're supposed to do is to remove your hand quickly. So that is the response. Now, that response is going to pass through the neuron called motor neuron. Then go to the effector. After going to the effector, now the response is going to be generated. Either if you have to move from there, secretion of other things. So that is how there's a reflex action taking place. So as you have said, you have what you call reflex arc. What is reflex arc? Is a pathway taken by what? By nerve impulse in reflex action. Pathway means from receptor to coordinator, from coordinator, effector, and then the response. That pathway is what you call reflex arc. Are you getting this? Good. So what are the components of reflex arc? As I have said, those are the components. Component number one is the stimulus. Component number two is receptor. Component number three is just, we have also those neurons. We have sensory neuron and what? And motor neuron and relay neuron. All those parts, they are involved in what? They are involved in this reflex action. Another component is this central nervous system. Central nervous system, it can be spinal cord or brain. Another component is what? Is effector. Are you getting this? So now, this is what you are seeing on the screen, and then we have seen the role of each one. Stimulus, you know what stimulus is? Any change that takes place in our body, any change. The increase of temperature, that is the stimulus, right? That's going to be received by our eyes so that we can see, that is stimulus. Pain, that is stimulus. Receptor, those are cells that are going to receive the stimulus, to receive any change, to detect that there is a change. Are you getting this? Now, sensory receptor, that detects the stimulus, actually is that. Sensory neuron, remember the role of the sensory neuron is to carry information from receptor to the central nervous system. We have also what we call relay neuron, which is found in the central nervous system, to which sensory input is passed on. And then we have also motor neuron, which carry information from central nervous system to the effector. And then we have effector. They are muscle and glands where the response is going now to take place. Now we have central nervous system, which is brain and spinal cord. So those are the components of reflex arc. Are you getting this? Nice. Yeah, this is there, but is what you have talked about. Don't worry. So now, we have what you call conditioned reflex action. Now, what's that? So we are talking about reflex action, but you have also what you talked, like this hot object moving in the hand, so breaking your eyes when there is something that is going to enter into your eye. All those are, we can say they are unconditioned. They are unconditional reflex action. But you have also conditioned reflex action. What is conditioned reflex action? It's a type of reflex that is coordinated by the brain, where the individual recognizes based on the previous experience, and the response occur. So it is controlled by the brain, and then it is going to occur due to the previous experience. That's condition, previous experience. Let's take an example of this experiment that is done by this Ivan Pavlov. So you know what's happened? Ivan Pavlov used his dog during this to prove this conditioned reflex. He used to bring the food at a given time to his dog. You see? And then after a given time, this Ivan, this man, used now to ring a bell. After ringing a bell, he gives food to the dog. And then you know what's happened? Sometime when he come, then rang the bell, the dog start to do what? To salivate. Salivate, you know, production of the saliva. Because the dog now is now thinking that the food now it is going now to have food. You see? Ringing a bell, and then the dog salivates. Salivate is like that response, and then get the food. You know? Then he give that dog food. Then after a given period, this Ivan used to ring the bell, even if the food is present or not present. The dog used to do what? To salivate. You see? Now the dog have been conditioned by what? By this bell. So the dog now think that when the bell is rung, so the food now is available. This is now what we call conditioned reflex. Are you getting the point? So you can, Pavlov showed that the dog could run reflex by ringing a bell every time he gave the food. Eventually, they will start to produce saliva, what? The dog. Produce saliva because they know that the food now is available. When he rang the bell. But however, the man can use to ring this bell, and then when the food is not there, the dog can continue to salivate because the dog have been conditioned. Are you getting the point? So the ringing of a bell is called stimulus. Yeah, actually, that's a stimulus. And the dog had learned to associate the sound of the bell with what? With the presence of the food. So this is what you call conditioned reflex. Are you getting this? There is a condition. What's the condition? There is a ringing this bell. To ring a bell, the dog now is informed that it's going to have what? Food. Are you getting this? Nice. So now, what's the difference between simple reflex and conditioned reflex? Simple reflex is that unconditioned reflex. Simple reflex use a single stimulus. Single stimulus. Like when you touch on the hot object. That hot object is the stimulus, is one, only one. But for conditioned reflex, we can have repeated what? Stimulus to bring about a response. Let's take an example. Ringing this bell is a stimulus. Having the food also can be the stimulus. So it is just one difference. Use a single stimulus. Here it can use what? The complex stimuli. So for simple reflex action, there is simple form of what? Of behavior. There is just behavior. If it is just when you attach on the hot, then you remove it. That is one behavior. But for condition, there is modification of what? Of behavior. Are you getting this? Modification of behavior. You have complex behavior. The dog, when there is a rang of this bell, the dog can now react. Can react quickly. So independent on experience. This does not depend on the experience. It happens by naturally. It is by naturally. We have also dependent on the experience. This one depends on what? On experience. Because let's take an example of our dog. The dog used now to do what? To hear the bell, and then he's thinking that the food now is available. So through the running of that, even in our daily life, suppose when you are at school. Remember what's happened when you are at school? So you know you have the time to do what? To go to eat. That's what you call hard. When that time is around, you can even start to do what? To salivate. Okay, nice. That is conditioned reflex. So now, what's the health practice of the nervous system? What can we do so that we can protect our nervous system? First of all, you have to eat balanced diet. So that's just to make your nerve system to be healthy. You have to eat balanced diet, such as eat fats. You can eat fats, vitamin D, vitamin B12 in adequate quantity to help them maintain what we call myelin shift. Remember myelin shift? We have seen this as one part of what? Of the neuron. This myelin shift can help the impulse to be transmitted quickly from one neuron to another neuron. Are you getting this? Now, the second one. So when your brain needs to get enough nutrients, the health nutrients, so that it can work well, like this vitamin D, vitamin B12. Vitamin B and C, they do activate what? They do activate the brain to work efficiently. So what kind of the food you can eat? Let's take an example of these cereals. You know cereals like maize, millet, wheat. Those are very essential food for the brain to work efficiently. So make sure you eat those food. Another one is practice exercises. To do physical sport. Physical sport also can make our nervous system to be healthy. Avoid drugs. Avoid drinking what? Like alcohol, excessive alcohol, cocaine, marijuana. All those, they are bad for our brain. So try to avoid that. Have enough sleep. So you have to relax well to have enough sleep. Like, for example, 80 hours. If you can have 80 hours, so that's a good health. If you go under 80 hours, so the brain is not well protected. You are not in good health. So wear a protective helmet when riding bicycle and motorcycle. So when you are on the motor, you have to remember to wear the helmet so that protect your brain. Taking time for relaxation, so you can hear the soft music, you can read the new papers and the books. This one avoids stress. Okay? I hope you do this. So now we can have this assignment. So what is the reflex action? So you will be able to define what is reflex action. Remember, we have talked about this. Define it, and if we try to give you some examples, it will help. Are you getting this? So now, B, you will be able to describe the component of reflex arc. Remember, we have talked about more than 6, those components of reflex arc. Make sure you will do it. So explain the change that occur during spinal reflex. So make sure you do this. I can say, thank you, my friends. So we shall meet by next time. I hope you continue to revise. We are at the end of this unity. So make sure you read more about it. So next time we shall start the new unit. Okay? I can say bye.